Welcome everyone. Some people have been known to complain that the current definition of prime number is not very good. This presentation is going to add an addendum to that definition, and it will be interesting to see what everyone thinks of it. Add your voice by liking or disliking this video. A like will be equated with I agree. A dislike will be equated with I disagree. Add your comments. Be prepared for a possible rebuttal, or contact me via email shown at the end of this video. Has the universe finally, after more than 2,000 years, given up one of its many sought-after secrets? It may be. Our presentation today is pretty basic black and white. It is also a math lesson. So, don't expect music, bright lights, or guest speakers. As you see here, we are going to start with the current definition set out by Plato around 300 BC. Immediately following that will be the addendum that is proposed. Then the math lesson begins. Nothing too scary, trust me. I don't understand Greek, so don't go expecting alpha, delta, omega, and whatnot. In the method slides, we'll be showing the formulas not used and used, the variables and their significance, and the order of the system. A concept that is called spin factors are an underpinning principle of the entire system and are in fact a part of the method. Examples A, B, and C follow. They are very small examples, but each illustrate a significant point to be remembered. Final thoughts end this presentation, at which point it would be great to cast your vote and state your opinion. Please note, this is not a magical formula. It is a magical system. Believe it or not, the current definition as stated by Plato is a system should you decide to start utilizing it and building upon it. As stated by Wikipedia, a prime number is a natural number greater than 1 that has no positive divisors other than 1 and itself. A natural number greater than 1 that is not a prime number is called a composite number. The addendum that is proposed is this. A prime number is only equal to the sum of its positive aspect and negative aspect. The terminology and variable identification follows below. Potential prime, as stated by PP, is the number being tested. Test prime, as stated by TP, a previously determined prime number, including the potential prime. Positive spin, PS, is a part of a preliminary calculation that must be done in order to determine the positive aspect, as stated by PA. Negative spin, NS, is also another preliminary calculation that must be done in order to determine the negative aspect, as stated by NA. PATP is the positive aspect of the test prime. NATP is the negative aspect of the test prime. PAPP is the positive aspect of the potential prime, and NAPP is the negative aspect of the potential prime. The ruling formulas are not necessarily worked with directly. They do, however, dictate the working formulas. The reason they are not worked with directly is because in the second ruling formula you see here, we have two variables that are missing, which require the working formulas to clarify and solve. The ruling formulas are read as the potential prime is equal to the positive aspect plus the negative aspect, and the potential prime is also equal to the test prime times A plus the positive aspect of the potential prime plus the test prime times B plus the negative aspect of the potential prime. It is in the next working formulas where we get down to the business of determining primality for any given potential prime. Formulas A and B determine the positive and negative aspects for the potential prime and satisfy the first ruling formula. It is in Formula C where we are able to determine the two missing variables from the second ruling formula. The working formulas are read as the positive aspect is equal to the potential prime times the positive spin, which is then rounded up. The negative aspect is equal to the potential prime times the negative spin, which is then rounded down. Formula C is the positive aspect of the potential prime minus the positive aspect of the test prime divided by the test prime, plus the negative aspect of the potential prime minus the negative aspect of the test prime divided by the test prime. Please do not forget your BEDMAs, or you may know them as PEMDAs. Very important to note about this system is that it builds upon itself, and therefore, for it to work effectively, efficiently, and accurately, we must start at the beginning. 0 and 1 satisfy this method, but as many of you will know, 0 and 1 are not prime numbers, and therefore are outside the scope of this presentation. For our purpose here today, the beginning is 2. There's 2 basic steps in this system. Step 1 is the only done once for each potential prime using formulas A and B. Step 2 is generally repeated several times, up to the last prime before the square root of the potential prime, to be precise. Got that? Applicable previous primes generally do not include 2 and 5 for reasons associated with the terminating aspects. Speaking of terminating aspects, you see them mentioned here in this small graphic. After this, they won't be mentioned much, so don't worry too much about them, except for determining 2 and 5 as prime numbers. As the slide suggests, this is all about the underpinning concept of spin factors. Spin factors are always based on the last digit of any given number, and there are 2 types of spin, positive and negative. These positive and negative spins, when utilized, produce 3 different types of aspects: positive, negative, and terminating. Any number associated with a terminating aspect can automatically be excluded from the prime group with the exceptions of 2 and 5. So, if you decide to do work with this on your own, don't forget to at least go through the motions of testing 2 and 5 for primality, because they are. The key thread with all of this is that the positive and negative spins together always total 1, which is integral to the fact that the positive and negative aspects always total the potential prime. Also interesting to note is that the last digits 1 and 9 are the reverse of each other in their spin factors, as are 3 and 7. Digging further, it is also interesting to note that 1 and 9 as a group are the opposite of 3 and 7 as a group. Positive spins in relation to 1, 3, 7, and 9 always result in an answer that ends in 0.9, which is rounded up for the positive aspect. Negative spins in relation to 1, 3, 7, and 9 always result in an answer that ends in 0.1, which is rounded down for the negative aspect. Let's get into example A, which is the beginning. As discussed, our beginning today is 2. Step 1 was to use working formulas A and B to determine the positive and negative aspects of our potential prime. So, our positive aspect needs to be solved. Our potential prime is 2, our positive spin is 0.5. Our formula, positive aspect is equal to potential prime times positive spin. We have 2 times 0.5, therefore we have a positive aspect of 1. Our negative aspect needs to be solved. Our potential prime is 2, our negative spin is 0.5. Our negative aspect is equal to potential prime times negative spin. 2 times 0.5 equals 1. Step 2 was to use working formula C. Please remember, in our terminology and variable identification section, it was stated that the test prime is applicable to previously determined prime numbers and the potential prime. So our variables are: the positive aspect of the potential prime is equal to 1. The negative aspect of the potential prime is equal to 1. The positive aspect of the test prime is equal to 1. The negative aspect of the test prime is 1, and our test prime is 2. As you can see, as we make our substitution and follow the rules of BEDMAs, we arrive at a final answer of 0 with a previous step of 0 plus 0. 0 plus 0 are the missing variables a and b from the second ruling formula. The final answer of 0 is what we are ultimately after in determining 2 as a prime number, although 0 does not equal a prime number, as we will later see. Example B, we take a baby step to the number 3. So again, we have our step 1. Our positive aspect is to be solved. Our potential prime is 3. Our positive spin is 0.3. Positive aspect is equal to potential prime times positive spin. 3 times 0.3 rounded up is equal to 1. Our negative aspect needs to be solved. Our potential prime is equal to 3. Our negative spin is equal to 0.7. Negative aspect is equal to potential prime times negative spin. We have 3 times 0.7, and we round down. Our negative aspect is therefore 2. Although we don't need to test prime 2 against potential prime 3, to illustrate our point, we are going to. So our positive aspect of our potential prime is 1. Our negative aspect of our potential prime is 2. In our previous example of 2, we determined the positive and negative aspects. So therefore, we use those same positive and negative aspects when we do our testing against 3, when we have a test prime of 2. So again, we have our formulas, and we make our substitutions, and we follow our rules of Bedma's, and we ultimately result in an answer of 0.5. When a test prime answer results in a decimal number, we can say that the test prime is not a factor of the potential prime. Moving on to testing 3 against itself, we again arrive at our answer of 0. As a result of the previous prime test being a decimal and the 0 answer from testing 3 against itself, we can determine that 3 is in fact a prime number. Our third and final example is in relation to potential prime 9. So again, we have step 1. Our positive aspect is to be solved. Our potential prime is 9. Our positive spin is 0.1. Positive aspect is equal to potential prime times positive spin. 9 times 0.1 rounded up is equal to 1. Our negative aspect is to be solved. Our potential prime is 9. Our negative spin is equal to 0.9. Negative aspect is equal to potential prime times negative spin. 9 times 0.9 rounded down is equal to 8. Our first and only real test prime in this situation for potential prime 9 is 3. So as we move on to step 2, we have our positive aspect of our potential prime is 1, as we just calculated that. Our negative aspect of our potential prime is 8, as we just calculated that as well. As we utilize test prime 3, and we make our substitutions and follow the rules of Bedma's, we ultimately result in an answer of 2. We have a whole number. Do you know what this means? It means that 3 is a factor of 9. But wait, there is more. We can say from this answer of 2 that 9 is the second result of 3, 6 being the first and 9 being the second. Now, we don't have to test 9 against itself, but to illustrate our 0 answer again here, we will. So we have our formula, we make our substitutions, we follow the rules of Bedma's, and we ultimately result in an answer of 0. Again, although we didn't need to test 9 against itself because we had already determined that 3 is a factor of 9, it was felt that the 0 answer should be illustrated again. Whenever a potential prime is tested against itself, we will always result in an answer of 0. That is why we cannot rely on 0 alone to give us a prime number, and previous primes must be tested. The final thoughts in regards to all of this is that for the range 2 through to infinity, there will never be a misstep. Terminating aspects, as briefly mentioned here, are just an added step in determining factors for any given composite number. And this is based on millions of calculations that have been done. And what is felt, although we are unable to do it, it is felt that this could be scripted into an automated computer program. The definition, as stated by Plato, is built upon the basis of 1. This system is built upon the basis of 0. Binary, anyone? Can someone please prove or disprove? Thanks for being patient to the end, and contact me if you wish.